What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Faisal Khamis from the Sports Sofa. I know it's been a while since you and I talked, but we're here, we're back, and we're ready to give you knowledge. Now, as many of you have heard, Randy Moss retired from the NFL today in what was maybe a stunning yet expected announcement. If we take a look back at his career, we see that it can really be broken down like a movie hero. There are four main parts to his career, so let's take a look at them all. When Randy Moss burst onto the scene in 1997, he really was, well, the next it guy. In his rookie year with the Minnesota Vikings, he caught 17 touchdowns to lead the league in TD receptions that year as a rookie. The ceiling, as they say, was, unseen for this player, this wide receiver, this freak of an athlete who really had all the tools to become the next great wide receiver. And you know what? He very much lived up to the hype. In his 7-year career with the Vikings, he had 90, count that, 90 touchdowns. A ridiculous pace. Finished with 15-plus touchdowns twice and over 10 in all of his years of -1. Now, this was a guy that was poised to break Jerry Rice's all-time TD record. So let's say this first part of his career with the Minnesota Vikings was very much the introduction of the hero in the movie, the guy who could do no wrong. But you see his confidence slowly turn into arrogance. His words kind of turn bad. His attitude changes from, acceptable to what the hell are you doing? This is very much Randy Moss. Well, now let's move over to Oakland. Oakland Raiders, the 2-year stint there. The Raiders notorious for striking out with their big player acquisition. Really couldn't with Randy Moss, right? Not after the career he had with the Vikings. But no, that's all he did. He struck and flamed out in Oakland. Very much like the hero of a movie, hitting his conflict and sinking to a low. In his 2-year career with the Oakland Raiders, 11 touchdowns. Just 11 touchdowns in 2 years? No, man. You're better than that, Randy, right? Some people said, okay, he's done. The shelf life for NFL players is not very high anyways. Randy Moss, maybe you are finished. Maybe your 9-year career is all we got. Sadly, it'll end with this low in Oakland. But you know what? It's okay. We remember you for your good in Minnesota. Let's move on. Next player. But then, Bill Belichick came a-calling. Very much like the resolution of the problem in the movie. The lights get brighter. The skies open up. And here comes this player looking for another chance. And Bill Belichick gave him that chance. And my goodness, Randy Moss did not disappoint. 23 touchdowns in his first year. 23 touchdowns in his first year with New England. An NFL record, 23 touchdowns. Leading the New England Patriots, while co-leading with MVP Tom Brady, to a 16-0 record and almost a 19-0 season. Brilliant. Randy Moss was, in a word, back. Thanks to the brilliance and genius of the greatest coach, Bill Belichick, Randy Moss was once again the best athlete in the entire NFL. And again, the ceiling looked unbearable. There was no way this guy would not break the record. Not after 23 touchdowns with this team, putting him at over 100 for his career. Wow. So, you'd never peak at that 23 again, and no one really expected him to. That's a high number to hit. 23 is a record. You don't expect to get there again. But his flame out was it was ridiculous with New England. In his second year, he dropped his TD total, and then in his third year, that's it. That was the end of the Randy Moss era in New England. After just 4 games with the team, he was traded to the Minnesota Vikings for a 3rd-round pick, and many were shocked. Had he talked his way out of town, there was a reported incident with Tom Brady in the locker room where he called out Brady for playing too soft. Bill Belichick, loyal to his quarterback Tom Brady, is willing to part ways when he sees a bad fit in the locker room, and he very much did. Lost in all this was the fact that Moss was being reunited with the Vikings, the team in which he started his career, which he set all these ridiculous paces, which he really broke out as a star. He was back with them. And, they were contending, just a kick away from making the Super Bowl a year earlier. Minnesota needed some sort of spark to get their team back. After Brett Favre was fizzling out of the league, they thought maybe this would be good for Brett, and Brett would be good for Randy. The first game was not a disappointment. Brett Favre threw his 500th touchdown pass to Randy Moss's arms, and everyone was ecstatic. Everyone was through the roof about this guy. Nope. Lasted 4 games in Minnesota before they cut him. Simply, that's it. Peace. Peace to that third-round pick we gave to New England. We don't even want you anymore. So people wonder, is this the end of this Randy Moss again? But then, Tennessee came calling. The Titans said, you know what? We're close to contending for the playoffs. There's 8 games left in the season. Let's take our chances with this player. 8 games, he started 4. He finished with what? 80 yards? Yeah, 80 yards. Caught 6 balls. 2 touchdowns in 8 games. And really, the writing was on the wall. This was a player that really had no motivation, no desire to want to get back to being the top of the league player anymore. And you know what? He was done. So let's bring this in a little closer. Let's analyze his career. How will we remember Randy Moss? Yes, the news announcement came today that he retired, but some argue that last year in Tennessee, he was, very much finished. Like we just said, he was done. But will his career be remembered for all the greats that he produced? All those great catches. The guy who had the ability to run at half speed and beat defenders. The guy who could stick out literally one hand and catch anything. Or the guy who could jump and just bring down any ball? Or will his question be remembered by what ifs? What if he gave it his all? What if he didn't have the bad attitude? What if he just stuck it out with New England? Would he have broken all those records? Would they have won a Super Bowl with him? What if? Yes, he hasn't won a ring, but that shouldn't harness his legacy. A lot of great receivers haven't won rings. That's okay. But this was a guy that was poised after 17 touchdowns as a rookie to break all the records. Yes, there's the bad, the mooning at Lambeau, the off-field altercations, the marijuana, the substance, the beatings, the assaults. But, that stuff was always overshadowed by his ability to just make damn catches. So, we look back. There's no doubt that this guy's a Hall of Famer. First ballot, unanimous. There's no doubt about that. But just think of how much more we could have had and how depressing it is to think of this physical freak of nature not living up to his potential. But he's retired. We look back at the greatness that was Randy Moss, all the great catches, all the great memories, all the great game-changing moments, and we just didn't appreciate the fact that we did get to see him play. For this guy's money, I really don't think he's done. I do think, mid-season, quarter season, a team will be needing his services. He'll call, they'll be winning, and he'll be like, you know what, let's give it one damn try. But for now, as he's done, we recap, we look back, and we just say, thank you, Randy Moss. That fro was great, but your catches, even better. Signing off from the Sports Sofa, this is Faisal Khamisa.